Hello, my name is Jim. I'm a narcissist. I've been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder because I do have narcissistic personality disorder. Just to kind of review from the last video, I'm making these videos if any victims, any people that think they may have this disorder, or just anybody looking to gain any kind of information. I'm of course making these videos to do two things. First, I want to be accountable for my actions. I want to be accountable for the damage I have done, and if anybody can learn from that, that is amazing. I'm trying to do some research. When I first realized I had this disorder, and even before I was diagnosed by a professional, obvious that just about all the information out there is really about victims and survivors, which rightfully so. The damage that this disorder does is pretty intense. It's pretty insane. So I understand why that is, but I tried finding other people that I felt I associated with this disorder. It was very difficult. So if of course there are other people that are out there with the disorder and they have similar characteristics, maybe this will be helpful to them. So that's part of the reason. Only 1.2% of the population is diagnosed narcissistic personality disorder. I'm not a scientist. I don't know if that's because people just refuse to acknowledge they have it. I can tell you that there is an interesting occurrence with professionals on whether or not they should tell a person they have it. Kind of walk you through that. So imagine you're a narcissist, you have narcissistic personality disorder, you go to a psychiatrist or a counselor, and they've diagnosed you in your mind that they know you have this disorder, but they think there's such a great chance that you're going to never come back again or refuse to acknowledge that you have it, to the point where they're not sure whether or not telling you that you have it is a viable option. So that just kind of really tells you so much about the individual that has this disorder, which brings me to kind of what I'm going to do today. How did I get diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder? How am I 49 years old with a degree in psychology and had no idea I had this in any way, shape, or form? And how did I find out? Because that's a big thing, and very, very common that a lot of times people with this disorder, they get told and they just pretend. They're like, hey, I'm gonna pretend like I have it, even though I know I don't have it. I'm just gonna appease people. It is very common with people that have narcissistic personality disorder to try to do the bare minimum to survive, right? That's really what it comes down to. They still believe in their mind they're the greatest, they're the awesomest, they don't have the disorder, everybody else is wrong, but they're gonna do the bare minimum just so nobody messes with them or gets on their nerves or gives them flack. So that's that's always just how do you combat that, right? How are my eyes never open? How did I still believe my entire life I'm a 1 in a trillion, that all this crazy stuff happened to me and I'm this lifelong victim? And I believed it. I believed that the impossible happened every day, and it just kept compounding, and I still reached out with my glory hounding, trying to get people to give me what I wanted, which was, let me tell you how I'm a victim, and let me tell you why I'm so amazing and everybody else is wrong, and none of this is my fault. So I've had this disorder for the better part of my life. Normally, narcissistic personality disorder is not something you are born with. In the first video, I talked about my brother and I were coming back when we were young from a baseball practice. He was hit by a car. He will be physically challenged for the rest of his life, barring some modern medicine miracle that hasn't been invented yet. And I was not. So I had extreme survivor's guilt, not just to him, but to my family members, and anybody that had ever known my brother. Of course, I felt guilt that I should have been able to rescue and save him, and it just created this terrible insecurity which eventually became my narcissistic personality disorder. And if you're not aware, there are several different types of narcissistic personality disorder. Mine, I'm uber sensitive, and also I always make myself to be the victim. So I will create fake fights with people, and then in my mind, I'll decide that they're evil and doing terrible things to me when they're really not. And then I go and tell others, oh my God, guess what happened? So-and-so treated me like this and they did that. And then they'll be like, oh, that's so terrible. And that's exactly what my insecurities want. So I've had this for, I'm 49 years old. I've lost so many jobs, so many friends, so many relationships, and had no idea. It's caused problems where I can't believe I haven't been arrested and charged for some of the things I said to retail employees, you know, things like that. But kind of fast forward to 48 years old, I met the most amazing, phenomenal person just ever created, and I fell in love in a way I can't describe in words. Man, just thinking about this girl makes every cell in my body just jump with excitement and amazement, and just, yeah, head over heels, unlike anything I ever even thought was possible at 49, let alone at even if I was a teenager. I mean, I didn't think I'd ever be able to experience anything like this. And in my mind, I thought our relationship was amazing. I thought it was phenomenal. So we moved in together. And after a couple of months, I tell people that she was offered a job and had to move away. When the hard, cold fact is my disorder and the things that I did and I said to her forced her away. She had to leave because nobody can live with that. It's just not possible. And to give you kind of an example of some of the things, you know, a normal day would be like, hey, is everything okay? And that's what I would ask her. And she'd say, no, I'm fine. Now in the back of my mind is, Jim, she's just being nice to you. She's really mad at you, right? She's not happy with you, right? So maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 15, however long. I come back again. No, seriously, what's wrong? And that would go on all day, right? My mind's telling me that she's upset, she's not happy with me, right? And it's making all these fantasies up. And what I'm actually doing is I'm belittling her thoughts and her emotions. So she's like, I don't know how, I don't even know how I feel. Like, why does he, you know, am I crazy? Right? And I'm instilling that, right? And I'm not, whether it's done unconsciously or consciously, I do that, right? I have to own that. I have to take responsibility for that. And that's just a small little segment of, so eventually things just got to a point where that couldn't be part of her life, that she didn't want the damage that I was doing to be a part of her future. So she left. And I tell you, I was heartbroken in a way I can't describe. I went into extreme depression, you know. And I tried to do some glory hounding, right? Future faking, if you're not familiar with these terms. So at that point is, you know, over glorifying, you know, the future and how amazing and awesome it's going to be. It's a honeymoon phase is another common term people will use. So narcissists, what they'll do is just tell you how great and amazing things are going to be, very much like an abuser. Hey, I know I beat you up, but it's going to be just like the beginning. If you come back, I'm going to be awesome. I'm going to be everything you dreamed of. Remember in the very beginning, it's going to be like that for eternity. That's what I do. That's what we do with this disorder, right? So I reached out a couple of times, and the only way a victim can deal with a narcissist is you cut them off, you block them, you don't respond to them, you cut all ties, you make the decision that this is not helpful, and this is not what I want for my future, and you cease all communication. Of course, a little bit different if like you're a family member and you have to have communication. But when you're in a relationship, and if you do, or a friendship, if you do have that choice, that's how you deal with a narcissist. You have to make that commitment to just cut all ties, and rightfully so. So we had done some communicating back and forth, and while we dated, she had pointed a couple things out to me that I just wasn't open to. Whenever, of course, you give me any feedback of any kind, I immediately start attacking it. Well, let me tell you why you're wrong. Let me, look at what you did. That's very similar, right? Very narcissist. We do not take feedback at all in any way, shape, or form, right? Just not going to happen. So she threw the word narcissist around. Now, this was really difficult because the type of narcissism, the type of narcissistic personality disorder that I have, and we, as I said, there's a couple of different types. My opinion of the word narcissist and my type of narcissistic personality disorder are two completely different things. So let me talk a little bit about what is narcissism, right? So I had an opinion very similar to the Greek mythology, Narcissus. Right? So he is this person in Greek mythology that loved himself. He's beautiful, he's gorgeous, and he's the greatest, most amazing thing ever. A couple of weird stories. One, he comes across the Greek myth of Echo, and he turns her down. He's like, look, you ain't getting none of this because I'm up here and Echo, you down here. So you stay down where you belong and you don't come up where I am, right? So actually, like the term Echo comes from Echo, like screaming that she loves Narcissist from the woods. So that's where you get the term Echo from. So the Greek god Nemesis, which evidently was like the balancer. If anybody is doing anything that they really kind of shouldn't or whatever, Nemesis is the god that you send in to fix things. Nemesis believes that everything should be even kilter. Right? Don't let people up here, don't let people down here, keep them right in the middle, right? So Nemesis realized that Narcissist is a narcissist. So Nemesis decides, all right, I need to get this dude from up here to even kilter. So what Nemesis does is she devises this plan and tricks Narcissist into going over to a pond and seeing his own reflection. When Narcissist sees his own reflection, it is the most beautiful, gorgeous thing he had ever seen. Greek mythology, there's no mirrors. He had never seen himself, right? So he falls in love with himself, right? And he wants to marry himself because this is the only person in the world that is so beautiful that they deserve his affection. So he just lays there staring at himself, right? This is where, like, there's some confusion in the mythology. So whether he commits suicide because he realizes that the person in the water will not return his affection, or he just lays there and eventually dies, either way, Narcissus dies and becomes a flower, and that's the story of Narcissus. That was my belief in narcissism. The person that literally can look at their own reflection, and this is the only living thing in the entire world that's good enough for me and my beauty and my amazement. And of course, I mean, my narcissism comes from trauma and really deep insecurity. I told you I have survivor's guilt. I hate myself. So I'm like, I am so not a narcissist. If I go to the gym, I'm not the one that's looking in the mirrors. I mean, I do the opposite. I get out of the shower and I'm trying not to see myself, right? So when the word narcissist got thrown around, I'm like, that is not me at all. So it had been brought up a couple of times. But remember, I told you I love this girl like I never thought was humanly possible. So again, I had reached out to her after she had moved away, and she used that word again. And at that point, I reached out to an ex, and I was like, hey, I wanted to ask you something. She keeps using this word, narcissist. I was like, do you think I'm a narcissist? And at that point, the ex was hilarious. She's like, first off, never ask an ex if you're a narcissist, right? But second, she's like, I don't think that word means what you think it means. And I tell you, man, that hit hard. And I was like, hey, I'm a narcissist. I deal with black and whites, right? Bam. It's this, there's no gray, black and whites. But I had enough self-awareness to be like, hey man, there's a chance that maybe I'm just a little bit wrong with what this word means. And I'll be honest, it's just that insane, intense love that I have for this girl that says, you know what? You owe it to her to research this word. And I did. And that's all I did. I went and did a Google search. What the does narcissist mean? Right? And I don't have hows, whys, what's, wheres. There was, in my search, narcissistic personality disorder came up. I don't even know why I opened it, but I did. And when I did, that's when my life changed. I was overwhelmingly just flabbergasted by how identical my life and my experiences were to the symptoms, which is really rare. Remember, I'm black and white. And man, a narcissist, it is so easy, and not sure if you're aware, right? The DSM-4 tells you, hey, the most recent DSM will tell you, hey, there's these 8 characteristics. If you got 5 of them, you got it. And man, if you're a narcissist, you're gonna go in there and you're gonna find a way to only get 4, be like, see, told you I ain't got it, right? I only got 4, I ain't got the 5. Man, I reached out to the ex, and I was like, I came across this, and I was like, do you think I have this? And she's like, yeah, definitely. That sounds a lot like you. So at that point, I was self-diagnosed. I started doing some research. I started making my own personal wellness plan. But you know, that's not the way you want to handle this. I immediately reached out and made a session with a therapist. The therapist recommended someone a little bit more specialized, and I've been meeting with a therapist ever since. I'm roughly about 2 months in the therapy with my therapist, and maybe after about a month, I apologized to him, and I'm like, look, you know, I self-diagnosed. I've been kind of laying this on your shoulders. You know, I've never given you the chance. You know, what are your thoughts? And he's like, yes, I'm familiar with narcissistic personality disorder, and yes, I would agree that that you display those characteristics. And if I was forced to write a conclusion, yes, I would diagnose you with narcissistic personality disorder. So I'm self-diagnosed and as well diagnosed by a professional. But I got side hooked. I don't know there was another scenario where my eyes open up that I have this disorder, but it's life-changing. I've always been of the belief that if you're not open to acknowledge that something is wrong or bad, there's just never going to be change. There's just not. It's not possible. And if you're not willing to acknowledge, or you or them or whomever, you're not willing to acknowledge that you truly have this disorder, and you are the one that chooses to act like this, there's just never going to be change. That's been my experience. That's acknowledging that I'm a narcissist, acknowledging that I have narcissistic personality disorder, taking accountability, going on this channel and admitting, looking loved ones in the eye and telling them that I have this disorder, taking ownership of and accountability of the things that I've done that have traumatized them. You can't fake that. You can try. And you're just gonna, I guess in the grand scheme, there's the pit, which means you let that NPD run your life, and that's how you find rock bottom, and that's how you stay there. And if you try to just do bare minimum, that's exactly what you're gonna get, 110%. I'm not saying my life is gonna be so phenomenal and It's going to be spectacular. But I'm not going to be down here. I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be putting it up here because I'm going to take ownership. I'm going to take responsibility. I acknowledge that I have this disorder. I now am open to new ways to combat and to kind of let you know that's what we do. My therapist is his area of specialty is cognitive behavior therapy. So what we work on is basically identifying the triggers, identifying behaviors, right, and being able to get myself in control of my thoughts, my words, my actions, my texts, my calls, my responses, my everything. Getting control of them before they come out, and that's what we work on in therapy, and that's of course what I work on my own as well. And for those that aren't aware, and for those that are here because they're victims or because they're just now acknowledging they're victims. I said this in my last video. I'm sorry, and for those that have this, I'm sorry, and for those that are victims, I'm even more sorry. There is no cure to this. Right now, there is no medication of any kind that is offered for resolution to this disorder. The only medication that you're gonna, if you are seeking medication, the only medication you're gonna get is literally going to be to deal with your anxiety or your anger or other things. No. If you think this is take a pill, it doesn't exist. There's literally no medication of any kind right now for narcissistic personality disorder. It's been my experience that if you were looking, I called because I did. If you're looking for the goodwill hunting resolution, where you just, hey son, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault, and then it goes away. Doesn't exist. I've done some amazing things in therapy. My survivor's guilt. I've been able to identify, gone back, and there's no logical way that I can blame myself for the accident. I've confronted my mom, not that she blamed me, but that I talked to her about the survivor's guilt, that even though it's irrational, that I felt like other people blamed me for not being able to save my brother from the accident. I tell you, and I'm not going to say these things didn't help, but I still have narcissistic personality disorder. And if you are like me, you will have this till the day you die. And you're never going to get cured. What my plan is for the rest of my life to be prepared to be challenged every day. That no matter what happens, no matter what I'm able to accomplish, if I live another 50 years and I'm looking 100 in the eyeball, I'm still going to have these thoughts. And my mind is still going to want to do these things, and I'm still going to want to react a certain way. And I need to do the things I'm doing now to stop myself before I react, to think them through, and watch that rock bottom and middle just stay where they are and live a life that's up here. So far, like I said, about 2 months in, it's been phenomenal. The changes I've seen, the positive reactions I've been able to get from, and I'm not going to say it's not hard. I work my fucking ass off. It's not easy. It's easy? Having NPD and letting it live your life, going out and screaming at people and yelling at strangers and getting fired from jobs and not having relationships and just being the rage monster and telling people how you're a victim and soaking up that glory of them telling you how sorry they are. And that's easy. Going out there and challenging your thoughts and making sure you stop before you act, that's hard. But get a couple of successes under your belt and start to see what the future might be like, makes it a whole hell of a lot easier. So this has really been a long session, and I apologize, but that's how I came to to identify it as a narcissist, and that's how I came to be diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. Again, just to give you kind of an expectation, I'm going to be doing these regularly. I'm still in the past. I'm going to, just keep doing these, until I get caught up in the future. And then whenever I get caught up, what I'll be doing is I keep a journal of my successes and my failures, and that the ultimate goal is to just kind of do this weekly and let you know about my successes and failures. If you didn't see the first video, a couple of things. I don't want to glorify any of this, so you just get, I'm at work today. This is my lunch break, right? This is my polo that I wear to work. If you look at my picture, I'm not glory hounding. Look at this awesome, amazing stuff I did, and I tell you, I've done some awesome, amazing stuff, and I'm not glory hounding for the picture. I'm not going to ask you to hit that subscribe button, because I don't ever want this to be about how many subscribers I get. If you have any questions, hit the comments, right? I'll try to answer them to my best. I'm not a licensed therapist, so I don't know. I have answers, but yeah, I'm gonna try to do this as a narcissist and be as non-narcissistic as possible, right? And we'll see how that goes. Like I said, at the end of the day, it's just hopefully that there's people out there that had the same situation as me, and maybe they can identify with some of the things that I bring to the table, or maybe there's victims out there that this will give them some insight into what's going on in the head of the person they care about or love, and give them some explanation behind it. Either way, I hope you've enjoyed.